Re-indicted Maryland mother, the fight over mental fitness. The Catherine Hoggle case. In the world of true crime, there are stories that haunt us because they remain unsolved. There are stories that devastate us because of their brutality. And then there are stories like the case of Catherine Hoggle, stories that disturb us because they live in the shadowy space between crime, mental illness, and justice denied. This is the story of two missing children, Jacob and Sarah. It is the story of their father, Troy Turner, who has fought for more than a decade for answers. It is the story of a mother accused of killing her own children, yet never brought to trial. And above all, it is the story of a justice system paralyzed by one question. Is Catherine Hoggle truly too mentally ill to face the consequences of her actions? Or has she found a way to manipulate the system itself? A family on edge. To understand this tragedy, we need to go back not just to 2014, but to Catherine Hoggle's life before then. Catherine grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland. She was bright but struggled socially, according to relatives. By her late teens and early 20s, her family began to notice the signs of mental illness, withdrawal, paranoia, distrust of others. She was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a severe and chronic mental disorder marked by delusions, paranoia, and at times, hallucinations. Despite her illness, she became a mother. She and Troy Turner had children together, the oldest, and then Sarah and Jacob, the youngest. Troy worked long hours to support the family, while Catherine often stayed home with the children. Friends recall the kids as inseparable. Sarah, at 3, had a protective streak, always guiding her 2-year-old brother Jacob by the hand. Jacob, cheerful and trusting, followed his big sister everywhere. Their world was small but full of laughter, swing sets, toys scattered across the floor, cartoons humming in the background. But there was always a tension beneath the surface. Troy knew Catherine struggled with mental health. He wanted his children to know their mother, but he also worried about their safety. He balanced compassion with caution, never imagining just how fragile that balance truly was. On September 7, 2014, Troy was at work. Catherine had the children. That evening, around 4 p.m., Jacob was last seen alive. Catherine told Troy she had dropped him off at daycare. But when Troy checked, no daycare had seen Jacob. The next morning, September 8th around 5 a.m., Sarah was last seen. Catherine again insisted she had left the children somewhere safe. She told her family different versions. Sometimes they were with friends, sometimes at a daycare. Each explanation fell apart under scrutiny. When pressed harder, Catherine admitted something chilling. She knew where the children were, but she refused to say where. Police launched a desperate search. Officers combed through neighborhoods, woods, and parks. Dogs were brought in. Volunteers hung flyers with Jacob and Sarah's smiling faces. Helicopters circled overhead. But despite the urgency, no Amber Alert was issued. Authorities explained that the criteria hadn't been met. There was no confirmed abduction, no vehicle description, no evidence of stranger danger. For Troy, this was devastating. Without an Amber Alert, fewer eyes were on the case in those crucial early hours. Leads trickled in, sightings, rumors, but every single one came up empty. It was as though the children had vanished into thin air. And Catherine? She gave nothing. Sometimes she rambled, lost in paranoia. Other times, she was calm, even smiling. She never broke. Police arrested Catherine within days. At first, she faced charges of child neglect and obstruction of justice. But as time passed and the children were not found, prosecutors considered something darker, that Jacob and Sarah were dead, and that their mother had killed them. Troy Turner, clinging to hope, begged the public not to give up searching. He appeared on the news, holding up his children's photos. "Please help me find them," he said. "Don't stop looking." In 2017, Nearly 3 years after the disappearance, a Montgomery County grand jury indicted Catherine Hoggle for the murders of Sarah and Jacob. For Troy, it felt like justice was finally near. But then came the twist that has defined this case. Before any trial could begin, Catherine's mental state was evaluated. Could she understand the charges? Could she work with her lawyers? Could she stand trial? The answer was no. Doctors at Clifton T. Perkins Hospital Center, Maryland's maximum security psychiatric hospital, ruled that Catherine's schizophrenia made her incompetent to stand trial. She could not meaningfully participate in her defense. From 2017 onward, the case became trapped in a legal loop. Catherine remained at Perkins. Every few months, psychiatrists evaluated her. Prosecutors pushed to move forward. Defense attorneys insisted she was unfit. Judges sided with the doctors. Maryland law has what is known as the 5-year rule. If a defendant in a murder case is found incompetent for 5 consecutive years, the charges must be dismissed. For Troy, this rule felt like a death sentence, not for Catherine, but for justice. Year after year, hearings came and went. Catherine remained incompetent. And in December 2022, the judge dismissed the murder charges. The children were still missing. Their mother was still alive. And the law had shut the door on prosecution. Catherine, however, was not free. She remained civilly committed to Perkins Hospital, confined for treatment because doctors considered her dangerous. But legally, the murder case was over. If the legal system had given up, Troy had not. For nearly a decade, Troy has been the most persistent voice in this case. He has held rallies. He has confronted judges. He has given interviews year after year, refusing to let the world forget Jacob and Sarah. To Troy, Catherine is not too sick to stand trial. To Troy, she is manipulating the system, pretending to be more unwell than she truly is, hiding behind a diagnosis, and refusing treatment to avoid accountability. She knows what happened to my kids, Troy has said. She knows where they are. Until she tells us, there's no peace. Montgomery County residents have followed this case with horror and frustration. To many, it symbolizes the cracks in the system, the uneasy space where mental health care and criminal law collide. How could a woman accused of killing 2 children avoid trial for so long? How could charges vanish while a father still mourned? Community members have raised concerns about safety. If Catherine could one day be deemed stable enough to leave Perkins, where would she go? Could she live freely, even as 2 children remained missing? In the summer of 2025, the story took another shocking turn. Prosecutors revealed that Catherine had recently been moved from Perkins Hospital to a halfway house in Kent County, Maryland. For Troy, this was like reopening an old wound. How could the woman accused of killing his children be living in a community setting? Then came the bombshell. On July 31, 2025, a Montgomery County grand jury re-indicted Catherine Hoggle on 2 counts of murder. She was arrested days later and is now held without bond. This time, prosecutors presented additional pieces of evidence that had not been central before. A witness claimed that on September 8, 2014, the very day Sarah disappeared, Catherine told someone at a psychiatric day program that she had just strangled my kids, before adding, "just joking." In another exercise at the program, Catherine allegedly drew a picture of children and a minivan being thrown into a trash can. Prosecutors argue this was symbolic of what she had done. The defense has strongly disputed both pieces of evidence, calling them unreliable, taken out of context, or misunderstood. And so the fight continues. Will Catherine finally be found competent to stand trial? Or will history repeat itself, with years of evaluations, hearings, and no resolution? Legal experts remain divided. Some say her illness is profound and genuine, making trial impossible. Others suspect she has learned how to manipulate the system, exaggerating symptoms and refusing treatment. Judges, so far, have chosen caution over risk. Through all of this, through charges, dismissals, re-indictments, Jacob and Sarah remain missing. Authorities no longer believe they are alive. Their birthdays come and go, marked only by their father in silence. Their photos remain frozen in time. Sarah at 3, Jacob at 2. The Catherine Hoggle case is about more than one mother. It is about the limits of justice itself. Can we prosecute someone who cannot stand trial? Can justice be delayed for over a decade without being denied entirely? Can mental illness ever shield someone from accountability for murder? For Troy Turner, the answers are simple. His children's lives were taken. Someone must answer for that. 11 years have passed since Jacob and Sarah vanished. Their laughter is gone. Their future stolen. Their father waits, prays, and demands answers. And their mother, still at the center of the storm, remains shielded by a diagnosis, her secrets locked away. Until Catherine Hoggle speaks, until she is tried, or until new evidence reveals the truth, this case remains a haunting reminder that justice is not always guaranteed. This is the story of Catherine Hoggle, a story of children lost, a story of justice trapped, a story of questions that may never be answered. Thank you for watching this in-depth documentary. If you found this video informative, please subscribe to True Crime Spectrum for more investigations into the world's most chilling mysteries and criminal cases.